Hey, it's Josh from Wellness Force. This is a really special Solocast. It's been a long time, and the Solocast is really an art form that I think we all can practice. But today, I want to give a different kind of practice to the world, to your consciousness specifically. Many of the concepts we explore on Wellness Force take us between physical and emotional intelligence. But as you know, in the background, there is always the spiritual intelligence that runs all things. This Solocast I actually recorded in a little hand recorder earlier this year before the birth of my son. I was out at Tim's event, Tim Kokorin, who is the CEO, the founder of Purpose Mountain. Make sure you go listen to that podcast if you haven't heard it. It is amazing for any men that want to become fathers or father the young man inside of themselves. And what you're about to hear was actually dictated from a hand recorder when I was coming off the hill, when I was getting all these beautiful reflections purely in the potent medicine of Mother Nature. And it was about our sedation. You know, one of the things I found in 100 hours of being completely in nature, immersed with no food, only water, no fire, no knife, no protection, no cell phone, no other human beings, literally my breath, water, a sleeping bag, and a tarp. It was incredible. And I'm going to share this with you. I hope that this medicine reaches you in wherever you are, whatever phase you're in, whatever growth potential you're leaning into. My belief is that if you slow down and you breathe and you take in this medicine of really the Solocast for us all, that you can break out of the sedation we're in. Our society is set up to sedate us. And so let's begin. In this podcast, you're going to learn about our sedation tools that we all have to fight against and be aware of. We'll talk about food. We'll talk about media. We'll talk about your own thoughts. We'll talk about freedom. And we'll explore the difference between pure disease and pure health. So if you yourself have dealt with addiction of any kind, or disassociation, or anxiety or depression, this podcast is perfect for you. Solocast, Society Sedation. Our society is set up to sedate us. This is not a conspiracy theory. Everything in the truth is out in plain sight. Look at the food, media, current events, even the general narrative and consensus in most communities is negative. You'll find that everything is about keeping you safe and playing it nice and cozy, but safe, nice, and cozy does not live on the edge of juiciness, does not live on the edge of what life really is. Yes, there are times where we do need to be sedated, like if we've had a traumatic event, or if we've worked our butt off and gotten super sweaty and we've earned our relaxation, we just need to chill. Yes, being sedated is okay at times. I'm an advocate for conscious rest, but not as a pulse of life, not as a heartbeat of our existence. Let's explore the factors of sedation in our modern society. As we begin with food, understand that food keeps us sedated by tons of calories with no nutrients. Plain simple fact, sedation occurs when people consume too many calories and they gain too much weight. Now, there's a huge backstory that's psychosomatic and emotionally intelligence-based that attaches to that. We'll save that for another show. But essentially what happens with food is that if we take in too many calories, and those calories are void and empty of any kind of micronutrients, you know, just because something's fat, protein, and carbs doesn't always mean it's real food. If you look at the amount of money that is spent literally in the billions with a big ass B by behavioral scientists, you actually study the palette of human emotions if you're a behavioral scientist for Kraft Foods, for Burger King, for McDonald's, and you get the inflection point of the perfect amount of sweetness. This is how people become addicted. This is the sedation tool that is called soda. It's called the bliss point. Did you know one of the ways that big food sedates us, if we allow them to, is this bliss point? Did you even know that the bliss point exists? Where if it's 1 degree sweeter, you won't drink it. But if it's 1 degree not as sweet, you won't drink it either. There's a perfect Goldilocks point that all chemists for Dr. Pepper, Diet Coke, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all these big companies with their labels on trucks flying all over America. They literally pay billions of dollars over the course of decades, and they spend $1 billion a year on other marketing. But if you add it up with the salary, the research and development, everything that goes into basically being a slave, scientists who know that they're enslaving the population for diabetes, for leptin resistance, for extra ghrelin. They're doing it for money. I mean, can you imagine? Can you truly imagine going to bed at night being one of these behavioral psychologists, behavioral scientists, really? They're scientists, not psychologists. You're one of these people who literally it's your job to addict people to soda and addict people to junk food. Now, this isn't about judgment, but seriously, can you think about that? Can you imagine going to bed knowing that your work and how you get paid is to find the bliss point that's going to make people fat and die earlier? I mean, whoa. And I really do say that without judgment. It's more just like, hey, what are you doing? So I digress. Let's get back to it. Essentially, when we look at the topic of sedation and food, and beverage specifically, whether it's soda or Jimmy Dean sausages or frozen foods, you ever go into a grocery store and you look down the aisle and you see like this absolute mecca of food, like, oh, there's angels and junk food playing harps with like little ding-dongs. And you wonder to yourself, who is eating this shit? Well, look at the research. A lot of Americans are. And it's even worse in other countries because our habits are bleeding over there. So this is what happens on a mental level. As you are trained from childhood to start eating these foods that are void of nutrients, the brain actually gets starved of calories and nutrients that it needs. It doesn't get its healthy fats like avocados. It doesn't get its fish oils like the omega-3s. This is what gets us to where we are. Whether it's food or beverage or snacks, all of these foods, if you flip the panel over and you look at the ingredient list, this is a cue. If it has more than a handful of ingredients, or you look at those ingredients and you don't exactly know what it means, or the worst one, if you look at the ingredients and it says natural flavors, look the hell out, because it is not a real food. This is a food substitute designed by commerce to keep you sedated. Now, this might seem a little jarring if you're hearing it for the first time, but it keeps you sedated. These foods that are in the GRAS list, GRAS, search on DuckDuckGo for GRAS. That's generally regarded as safe. These additives turn your brain power down by adding fat to your body, making you feel sluggish and tired. Well, I say hell no. Hell no. Are you with me? Not for me, not for you. You can take your sedation tools and put them somewhere else. Pepsi, Coke, Jimmy Dean, CAFO, meat and chicken raised with animals and poultry standing in their own feces. The list goes on and on. And so that's the first piece. And there could be an entire discussion on that, but you already know this. If you've listened to the Wellness Force podcast one or multiple times, you can see that there is a lot of behind the scenes going on with pretty bows and packages that make people purchase products, which is essentially like buying pigs wearing lipstick. So now that you understand what's really going on with food, you can go to wellnessforce.com and search food or real food. We have a search bar on the homepage. Start learning more about how to protect yourself from the way that society tries to sedate you with food. It's much, much more than just what you're putting in your mouth. Now let's move on to the second piece of how society is designed to sedate men and women, and that is the news media. Now, this is huge because the news media has a narrative that works to sedate us 24/7, 365. And it does it by the vehicle of fear. And fear is really false evidence appearing real. Think about that. If it's false, if it's evident, the news media can make it appear real. And by they, I mean Rupert Murdoch and the 6 companies that run the entire media network for the entire United States and the world. You can Wikipedia this. This is not conspiracy theory. So here's what happens. And I'm sure you're already feeling it, or maybe you sent this to somebody who's already felt it, and that's why you're here with us. But there are people that as soon as they find out there's a narrative like this that goes against the mainstream narrative, they like to label you and I conspiracy theorists. I say that with like huge air quotes. But it's not a conspiracy theory. It's right out there. Do that basic DuckDuckGo search or Brave, and you will see that the media, the global media, is run by 6 oligopolies, 6 conglomerates who all get paid billions and billions of dollars every single year in advertising fees. And you won't have to guess too far to know who their largest client is. It's big food and big pharma. It doesn't come as a surprise. I think we all feel this on some level, but when you see what Joe Rogan is posting recently on Instagram, where Pfizer was the main prime sponsor on the majority of MSNBC, CNBC, all the different sporting events brought to you by Pfizer. Can you guys connect the dots? Look, I'm not here to say you should not ever have intervention from pharmacology. Even life insurance, right? I'm not here to say that insurance is bad or we don't need to demonize entire industries, but I think everything has a time and a place. With your heart and with your intuition, notice that baked into every single commercial and every single piece of media propaganda out there, it is for you to be afraid. But what I have to sell you as a pharmaceutical company or an insurance company, it's the solution to all your fears, isn't it? Look at Viagra. Oh, you're going to break up with your wife? No, just take this pill. Look at car insurance. Save a bundle with Geico, the little lizard that tries to make you buy insurance. And then, of course, when they get you on the phone, they're actually going to upsell you for insurance that you don't need. But the worst of them all is health insurance. Companies that provide health insurance, the way that it's tied into the medical industrial complex and the pharmaceutical and the wards that run hospitals. Just so you know, hospitals are a for-profit enterprise. Hospitals are not nonprofit. Think about health insurance. The greatest health insurance we ever have is the belief in our own self, not an exterior company that can somehow provide us a solution. And again, there's a time and a place for medicines. I'm not here to demonize medicine. I think medicine has strayed very far from how it started. But if you look at the original symbol with the staff and the snakes right on top, it says, "Do no harm." Do no harm. Well, that is not the case. The majority of medicine out there has its own interests at the forefront and the patient in the back seat. It's a broken system, which is another podcast we can go into. And you can actually look at the podcast with Dr. Zach Bush, which is episode 345, or Dr. William Lee, many of the physicians we've had on the show. So this major news media, the fear narrative of Rupert Murdoch and the 6 media companies that basically run the planet, especially in the USA. How do those companies use fear to make us feel small so that we get sedated only when we buy their stuff? That we will, quote, be safe, or at least that's what they tell us. Ponder that question. How many times in your life, if you really tune in, have you bought something out of fear? I know I have. We've all done it. Oh my gosh, I got to get this supplement because it's going to make me live longer. Oh my God, I got to buy this fill in the blank to give me blank because I'm not good enough or I'm not safe enough where I am. I just want you to know that there is truth and honesty in sales. I mean, everything that I sell is honest. I believe in the Breathe, Breath and Wellness program. I believe in the offerings that we have for our community. I believe in the Freedom Accelerator mentorship because I do them with clients in groups all day long. And so the people in our community, I believe in our sponsors, Cured and Force of Nature and Paleo Valley and Organifi, all these amazingly organically grown, organically made products. Here is the key to break out of sedation when it comes to buying supplements or buying things that you really don't need. Just know when something's organic and people actually care about the planet, they're giving back to the planet. They're taking care of Mother Earth. Well, we can take care of them with our money, right? Because money is energy. So wrapping a bow on this second category of sedation, the fear news media. You need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. I think it was a rap song by Busta Rhymes or Rex and FX. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. So check yourself if you're watching the news media, either on your phone or Instagram or Facebook or television. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but tune in. If you feel stressed, if you feel less love for yourself after you watch the news media, it is truly as simple as putting it down, turning it off, and stop watching the news. It's actually quite that simple. Just stop watching the news. Stop it. Stop it. Now, the sedation has already been talked about, so feel into this one a little bit more. We've already talked about how food keeps you sedated. We've talked about how people are easier to divide and control when you're sedated on many podcasts, and specifically through the news media, which is number 2. Well, when you're in fear, you're much more easy to be divided and conquered. I'm not going to get into it now, but if you look at the history of mask wearing in ancient Egypt and Africa, many continents, mask wearing was always used to sedate people and to keep people silent. And I believe that is exactly what's going on right now. So this brings us to our third point. If you are watching something, you are consuming something from a media perspective, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or even a podcast, I advise you, take a deep breath. do a basic search on news media corruption specifically, there is one video that I'm going to link here in the show notes. And all these newscasters across the entire United States at the same time on the same day that are all owned by the same conglomerates, they all said, this is a danger to our democracy. It is going to put chills on your neck, my friend. It is going to freak you out. You'll probably never watch the news again, and good. Make sure you go to the blog here for this Solocast. After hearing it, this incredibly terrible phrase, this is incredibly dangerous to our democracy. It's like robots. Make up your own choice. Again, I'm not here to tell you what to do. Stop watching the news media immediately. If you care for your health, if you care for your family, if you don't want to be sedated, put down the news media. It is poisoning you. It is subtly making you sick by keeping you in fear. Now let's talk about the third phase of sedation. We've talked about how food makes you sick and the media makes you sick and sedated. And the next one is big for all of us, especially for men, and it's pornography. And this is a polarizing topic, but pornography is something that 24/7, 365 is available on every device for any 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old boy or girl to watch. And when you're addicted to pornography, and I speak from my own past experience on this, you will sedate the very life force energy that creates life inside of you. Play that back again. You will sedate the very life force energy that creates life inside of you. And this is the greatest tragedy that we are facing right now as a society, as parents. Pornography is not something to be used as a replacement for true sex and life force energy. Pornography is something that has been used as a tool to disconnect people from themselves. Same with prostitution. I'm not here to say that prostitution is right or wrong. You can make up your own choice on that. But there is a close neighbor of pornography and prostitution. They feed on the same energy. And the energy is that you're not enough. You can't get what you need. You can't get fulfilled and nourished with your own value. So you have to actually pay for it with money or pay for it with your soul. Subtly, pornography plants negative mental seeds like, you don't have what it takes to get a real partner or to have a true sexual connection. Or maybe you got hooked on this stuff when you were young, just like me, right? It starts with Playboy, then it turns into Penthouse, then Hustler. Then it goes to the wavy lines on the cable TV. And then you try to point out like a private part or a breast or something. And oh my God, there it is. So it starts out just like leading lambs to slaughter in Pinocchio. When all the kids went to the island, you know, pornography starts out the same way. Nice and easy. And then it goes real south, real fast. Whether it's on a tablet or a phone or computer, these sites, once they hook into the limbic system of young men, look out, because it's like feeding candy to a child 24/7, 365. Ponder this. Sex is one of the most powerful energies known to this planet, gifted to us by Great Spirit. And it is an absolute atrocity that we allow this pornography to be consumed all day long in every country, in every household. I'll tell you what, for all the parents listening, I almost guarantee that your child has most likely already seen it. Some of the most disgusting things you could ever imagine. And what does this do to us? How does this normalize gender dysphoria and sexual orientation confusion? How does pornography diminish the flame of life force energy inside of all beings? Well, it's quite simple, because it teaches that a false sense of sexuality is real. And you can take that to the bank and cash it, because pornography is not real. Pornography is mental masturbation that turns into physical masturbation to have some kind of false sexual flame identified as the real thing. And this is a very sinister force, this pornography. If you look at many people that are involved in the industry, most are drug addicts, many commit suicide. There's a dark demonic energy around the entire adult film industry and in many adult films. By the way, maybe back in the day, before it became incredibly corrupted by dark energy and demonic forces, maybe there was some great erotic art. And you know what? Maybe now there still is some great, incredible erotic art as well. I'm not here to say that erotic art done in a tasteful way is bad. Actually, I think it can really help people. But that is like 1% of 1%, right? The elephant in the room. No one wants to photograph it. No one wants to talk about it. But it's right there on your child's phone. And this is what needs attention. This is what sedates us. And it starts out in childhood. There is a solution to everything that I've talked about today. Whether it's food, whether it's news media, whether it's pornography. The last one is the thoughts that you think. This is what needs the most attention. And again, this starts out in childhood. Your heart's wisdom knows to turn off the TV and to turn off the news media. Your heart's wisdom knows to buy foods that are from Mother Earth, unadulterated, unprocessed, unhomogenized. Your heart's wisdom knows that the antidote to sedation is turning into the heart's wisdom. And that is the gift that we all get to receive today. But how do you do this? How do you transform your thoughts from a seed of negativity to a mighty oak tree of positivity? I mean, it can almost feel like changing a circle into a square, depending on your childhood and what you've been through. Well, this is the fourth phase. Your thoughts become things. So the first part of transformation with your thoughts starts with the awareness of exactly how much or how far you want to transform. Look, many of us get caught up in the 0 or 100, where we buy into the manufactured shame economy that tells us we should always want to be a caterpillar that turns into a butterfly. And accepting anything less about our desire for transformation means that we're lazy or we don't have ambition. But what if ambition was not always directly tied to success? What if success was a lot more nuanced and complicated? So many people think of success as this bank account with 7 figures or more. But isn't success also a healthy body and a healthy mind that allows you to communicate with family members or friends that you love? What if success was essentially a state of being combined with the honoring of the mystery of life, where we can ascribe to the fact that we choose our parents, therefore we choose our destiny? And the recipe for success and transformation can either come from pain or pleasure, from fear or from love. You'll get there from A to B, start to finish, no matter what. I mean, we're all going to die. So the most enjoyable and rewarding experience that you know deep down in your heart's intuition should always be the guiding light. It should always be the North Star for any kind of achievement or journey, discovery. It's the gift that God gave you called life. And what happens is we have this default mode network in our brain, and the default mode network is literally what is scanning for danger when we're completing a singular task. And so depending on what level of awareness you have, if you've done the emotional inventory practice that I've talked about on many shows, I will link that in the show notes here. If you've never really done any self-awareness practice, this is how you escape the negative thoughts, the negativity bias, the negativity force feed that is being stuffed down your throats like you're a duck and they're going to harvest your liver for foie gras. That's how serious it is right now. Yes, you cannot generate the energy that you don't have without consequences, both short-term and long-term, to the mental and physical self. But you can choose to generate the energy regardless of how you feel, using caffeine or supplementation temporarily and infrequently. But the wisdom inside of all of us, connected to the intelligence that we are, will surely give us loud signals if we're too out of alignment and we're using caffeine, drugs, or stimulants, or shopping, food, porn, social media, workaholism, addiction to stress, or any other mechanism that disassociates the head from the heart. The price is going to be paid no matter what we choose to do. But the price that is paid living in alignment with restoring one's energy reserves before putting out maximum energy, that's never going to escape us as human beings. So how do we course correct in this fourth phase of understanding how we are sedated? How do we adjust? How do we do things in life that actually make us happy? Because when we're focused on what makes us happy, everything that's pulling us away from that will bubble up to the surface. And so to be aware of how you truly feel and to have an emotional inventory process where you understand that your life is on purpose, you understand who you are as a person, you understand your value in the world. If you are not clear on your life's purpose and you are not clear on what you want to create in the world, you are completely left wide open to that fourth phase of sedation. And that actually is the negative thoughts, those seeds of negativity. They never ever grow into a tree. They actually turn into weeds. And then you start subconsciously gathering the evidence that you're not enough and that you're not really worthy of your purpose. I want you to know that that's not the truth. The truth of who you are and the antidote to this fourth phase of sedation was actually perfectly said by Alan Watts. Alan Watts asked his students, what makes you itch? What was it that if money was no option, you would do, you would love to do? Well, then go do that. Otherwise, if you do something just for money, you will chase it for your whole life, and it'll be hinged upon the next moment where everything might be better, or when I can just have this, when I can have this much money, or when I can just take off this much time. But it's all an empty vacuum, begging for closure. And the only thing that nature hates more than a vacuum is a soul who is disconnected from itself. And by hate, I just mean the absence of love. So let me rephrase. I don't think the universe hates anything. But I do think that the universe wants to experience itself with the absence of love. So the biggest barometer for all of us when we are not loving or for when we are out of love is when we begin to experience hatred and fear within ourselves. So take a deep breath. And if you're a student, if you're with us in the community for the Breathe, Breath and Wellness program, then you know the power of the breath is something that no one can ever take away from you. Once you learn how to breathe properly, how to breathe in a circle, how to breathe in a box, how to do your breath hold retentions, how to hold your energy locks, how to do your different cyclical and box breathing for your acute stressors, how to pull yourself out of the default mode network, you are not able to be sedated. The opposite of depression is expression. The opposite of anxiety is you here in this current moment. That's where everything's happening anyways. Can you feel it? I'm here with you right now. We're here together right now. You just let that be enough. And so take 6 more deep breaths as I say goodbye for today. And I'm going to give you an action, an inspired action to take. You now have the biggest barometer to know when you are not loving, when you experience hatred or fear within yourself, which that barometer will immediately light up when you experience one of the 4 ways that society sedates you: with food, with news media, with pornography, and with the thoughts that you think about yourself. Know thyself. It's written on the temple at the Apollo. Know thyself. Head over to breathwork.io. Use the code podcast25. It's my gift to you. This is a 3-week program. I'm so excited to guide you for the next 21 days so you can actually use your breath to start being friends with your ego, understanding the parts of yourself that you still are holding on to with shame or judgment or loathing. Those aren't true either. But you must experience them, right? Energy that is not transmuted will sit still, and no energy can be created. It can only be transformed. So transform this energy, because the first part of transformation starts with the awareness of exactly how far you want to transform. So I don't care who you are, where you've been. This is an opportunity, and I want to invite you with my open arms. It took me 3 years to build this program. I traveled around the world. I spent 30 days in Thailand, crying and actually throwing up a couple times, doing the most deep practices you could ever imagine. And I brought back the gems. I brought back a 3-week process where you can use your own breath to clear your stress. Breathwork.io. The code is podcast25. It's 25% off. It's my gift to you. I cannot wait to see you in this program. And that is your inspired action. Whether you are brand new to Wellness Force, or whether you are interested in breath work, or maybe you've tried a lot of things and you're at a turning point in your life where you really need to receive support, this is the call to action for you. Breathwork.io. Use the code podcast25 and I will see you inside. And until I see you again on another Solocast or another interview, this is Josh Trent saying goodbye for now. Excited to see you at my home's doorstep at breathwork.io. And until I see you again, I'm wishing you love and wellness